Welcome back. If you are just joining us, you are watching part 2 of tonight's 3-part show. We just finished part 1, where we both did a tasting of Eagle Rare 10-year bourbon. Ken, what are your thoughts overall on the Eagle Rare 10-year?
Again, I'm really liking the flavor. It's treat me right. Not too warm. Nice complex flavor. It's well done. Really enjoying it.
Yeah, I like it as well. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. And I remember when we did the Russell's Reserve 10-year, which is probably the closest apple-to-apple comparison, I really like that as well. So I'm now really looking forward to a future show where we can put these two side by side.
Yeah, that'll be fun, something to do. It's, you know me, I like the sweeter bourbons or the whiskeys. Yeah, bourbon whiskeys. So
yeah. I remember when we did the Russell discussion, you definitely got more of that oak and smoke from it being aged for 10 years. I think the low rye on the Eagle Rare really brings out that sweetness.
Could be.
Before we jump into tonight's episode of Sons, I want to remind everyone to like and subscribe. Click that little bell at the top right side of your page so you don't miss any future shows. And be sure to leave us your questions and comments in the comments section below, or you can also email your questions to us at ask@bourbonbros, that's BROS.TV. And if your question doesn't suck, we may answer it on a future show. All right, let's get into tonight's discussion of Sons of Anarchy, Season 1, Episode 7, titled Old Bones.
Old Bones.
Ken, we're halfway through October. This one was originally aired October 15, 2008, and it was written by Dave Erickson.
Okay, now we're in November now. So.
Yeah, we're trailing about a month behind.
Okay.
Plus 12 years.
Yeah. It's old. It's not new.
It's not new. For anyone that may have either been living under a rock or maybe too young to have experienced this show when it aired back in 2008, I'll give a quick synopsis in case you have not already seen the episode. Jax finally learns about creepy Agent Cone and gives him a gentle warning. Creepy Agent Cone retaliates by breaking into Jax's house and reveals he's actually European. You know where I'm going with that.
You'll probably have to explain that at some point.
We'll explain that a little later. Jax gets the upper hand and Agent Cone pays the price. A construction crew unearths the bones of 3 Sam Crow victims, 2 Mayan bikers. Well, let's just skip that. We'll get into that later. We don't need to know who they are. And Clay has to make a tough decision about Harlan Jr.'s future. Bobby tests Cherry's loyalty to Half-Sack by acting like a weird pedophile. And Clay, Tig, and Chibs fix a boxing match by placing a large bet against Half-Sack, meaning they want him to take a dive. And things go exactly to plan until they don't.
Well put.
Ken, what were your overall thoughts on the episode?
Yeah, I was entertained. I don't think it was the best one I've watched so far, but it had a lot of good points.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a good show. I enjoyed it. I remember when it was finished. It's not like I disliked it, but I don't know that it's memorable enough to be in that kind of like top 10, top 20 best episodes.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree.
Did we have any new characters introduced in this episode? I'm trying to remember.
I don't think there was any new characters, but Lowell Harlan Jr. I think he was introduced in the patch over. But we really get into his little bit of his character in this episode, a little bit of his history with the club.
I think his introduction and patch over was so brief, we didn't even mention it in that episode because it was just so quick and kind of not germane to the storyline. But you're right. He was introduced previously. And this episode, it really becomes, he becomes more front and center to the storyline.
Right.
So speaking of storylines, let's break this down a little bit. And as we've been doing in the most recent shows, we'll kind of talk about the, episodic story of the week storylines, and then there are those kind of ongoing storylines that are recurring in the series. So from an episode story of the week perspective, we had during some construction in Charming, the road crew found bones of 3 individuals that obviously were not in a traditional burial casket. We have a look into Lowell's character, as you said, and that gets explored in this episode specifically with regards to his drug addiction. And then we still have the club that are trying to raise money to pay the Irish, and that's kind of an ongoing storyline. But the kind of story of the week is one of the ways that they've decided to raise money is to bet against Half-Sack in a boxing match by having him take a dive.
Right.
And then our kind of ongoing storylines, and Ken, I'm sorry to bring it up, but it's creepy Agent Cone. He continues to irritate.
So annoying.
He's crossing a lot of lines in his attempts to both pursue Tara and be a wedge between Tara and Jax. We've got, thank God, Agent Stahl, who, after the incredible introduction in the last episode, doesn't get quite the one-liners in this episode, but she's still involved in continuing to pursue Sam Crow. We've got the ongoing tension between Tara and Gemma. And we've got Cherry, who's continuing to cozy up with Half-Sack, and Clay, who in this episode is now going to test Cherry's loyalty.
Right.
Anything you think I missed, or does that pretty much cover it?
No, that pretty much covers it. I think another point that I wanted to make is that I don't know if I'm just stupid or if it's something that you're experiencing, but I find it with the relationship between the Nords, the Niners, the Mayans, the Irish, Sam Crow. There's so many complexities there, and they talk so quickly when they're meeting, like in church at the club, that
Right.
I find it hard to stay on track as to who's who, and the characters that are associated with each entity. Just trying to align that and keep it straight in your head is sometimes difficult for me anyway.
Yeah, you're right. And I guess the way that I would probably characterize it, which is kind of, I've never really thought about it until you brought it up, but it's an interesting ally, right? You have Sam Crow, Outlaw Motorcycle Club, who predominantly is white, but not necessarily a white supremacist group, but they do tend to have mostly white members. But they have kind of an interesting connection to the Niners, which is a Blackstreet gang, because that's who they're selling guns to predominantly.
And they're out of the Bay Area, right? Niners.
Right. And then you've got the Nords, who are absolutely white supremacists.
Very obvious.
But have a, what's that?
Very obvious.
Very obvious.
They're white
Yes, if
supremacists.
you just look at the tattoos. No words need to be spoken. But yet they have kind of a friendly alliance with the Mayans, which is mostly Latino. And so their kind of semi-friendly relationship between the Nords and the Mayans is similar to the semi-friendly relationship between Sam Crow and the Niners. But ultimately, all four are vying for power and turf and money. And so you find alliances where you can, but ultimately there's no love lost between any of them.
Right.
Right. But as we'll see in some future episodes, like the Nords and the Mayans kind of try to come together against a common enemy, which is Sam Crow. And I believe, I'm a little fuzzy on this, maybe you remember better than I do, but I believe a similar type of situation happens with Sam Crow and the Niners later on in the series as well, where they kind of come together against a common enemy or goal.
Right. Anyway, I just thought that, to me, as you were talking through that, it just jumped out at me as being something that, I almost need a flow chart to kind of keep track of what's going on.
Yeah.
But
There is a lot, and it is, and again, I think this is one of the reasons I love the show. I love shows that you have to pay attention, and that they don't dumb down, and that is absolutely the case here. Kurt Sutter is throwing a lot at you. It's very easy for it to go over your head or for you to miss it if you're not paying attention. He doesn't dumb it down, and I love that in television.
yeah, so do I. I just find I might need to buy a new remote because I'm constantly
Rewinding.
replaying things or rewinding, especially when you have, the Irish accents in there, Tig, not Tig, Chibs, McKeevy.
Yeah, you have to learn how to understand Chibs.
Yeah, there's so much going on. So anyway.
Yeah, I agree. It is something that you really have to pay attention to. And I find myself sometimes turning on subtitles just to make sure that I am catching everything.
I wasn't even going to admit to doing that, but I am doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you got to do it.
Yeah.
I've even noticed cases where the volume is so low, I have to turn on subtitles.
I have
where
too.
In other parts, it's very loud. But yeah, whatever you got to do to follow along, and you don't want to miss anything because everything means something in the show.
It does. It really does.
So let's get into some of our favorite moments. I'm going to let you kick things off. What's the first favorite moment you want to dig into?
The first moment was at the beginning where Jax is taking Tara home on the motorcycle, arrives at her place, and
Which is a continuation from the end of the last episode.
It is. That's where they're going, and she has to tell him about Agent Cohn and about the history there.
Ah, yes.
So he immediately puts it all together because he knows he's been followed, doesn't know who it is, but when she admits to what's going on or opens up to him about what's going on, he puts it together and he tells her to stay put, and he heads off towards the car that he sees parked there on the side of the road. And
Zero hesitation.
He pulls out his knife, and this is a knife, like, this is like Crocodile Dundee kind of knife. And he just jams it right in the radiator of this car.
Charlie Hunnam, the actor who plays Jack spent some time with the knife because the way he handled it, the way he pulled it out, and the way he kind of flicked it up and caught it, you could tell that had been rehearsed, and it to the point where it looked very natural. And again, I love that attention to detail. And yeah, fantastic scene.
Right.
And I love when Jax and Cohn are literally 2 inches nose to nose in the standoff.
You got nothing on Sam Crow. And you harassing Tara, that ends here. Or next time it won't be a piece of shit car I'm draining fluid from.
You threatening a federal agent?
I'm threatening you.
It was heated, basically.
And at the very end of that scene, when Jax turns around and walks away, you've got Cohn, who's kind of being this arrogant, like, I've got the law on my side and I can take you down. And Jax kind of shoves it right back at him, right? And calls him on the carpet for the fact that, he's violating a restraining order. And Jax turns around and walks away. And Jax never was concerned, right? Like,
No.
Cohn's no threat to him. And as you see Jax turn, you can see in the body language and the expression, Cohn's a little scared. I love that. No words spoken. You only get it for a glimpse, but his kind of bravado didn't work, and he folds.
He's not one of my favorite characters. He's just He's so annoying.
You don't like talking about Cohn at all.
I don't.
Well, to talk about something on a more positive note, I also really liked, after that scene, Jax is at the police station and he approaches Hale.
He's not here for Sam Crow, Hale. He's here for Tara. What the hell are you talking about? This guy was stalking her in Chicago. I think she came back to Charming to be with me. I'm telling you, this guy is nuts and he's gonna hurt her.
You know Hale hates Sam Crow. He's waiting for Unser to retire so he can take Sam Crow down. And yet, despite their differences, they both know that Tara is an innocent, and they can come together on that.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah, interesting alliance there.
While you're on the subject of your favorite character, Agent Cohn, in the synopsis, I mentioned that we discover that Agent Cohn is European. Now, I love this joke, but I've got to be honest, I'm stealing it from you because... What was it, Ken? 22 years ago?
You might even be 32 years ago. I have to go do my math.
You had a dog that when the dog got excited, it would just start peeing
Yeah.
right on the floor. Just, I'd come over, dog would get excited, and it would start peeing.
Yeah.
And you made the comment, something along the lines of, I have a European dog. And I looked at you befuddled, like, European? And you looked at the dog as it just finished peeing and goes, European?
As it was going. Yeah, I remember that. I do remember that.
So, to put this in context, Agent Cohn, after the altercation with Jax, decides he's got to get even. He's got to get back at Jax. And so he breaks into his home. And at this point, we don't know why he chose Abel's nursery, but we actually find out in the next episode. So it's important to remember this scene. He doesn't go and screw up Jax's things, right? The guy that he doesn't like, that he sees as a wedge between him and Tara. He goes to this newborn baby's nursery and destroys the room. And then he also drops trowel and urinates on the rug in the middle of the room.
So how twisted is Kurt Sutter? Was this
He's
Kurt?
very twisted, number one. Like, very twisted. But what kind of sick, warped, creepy guy urinates on a baby's nursery's rug? Now, again, in the next episode, we find out why. So we're going to bring this back in the next episode and talk about it. I don't know if you remember, but there's a very clear explanation about why he does this. But here's the thing. He is an ATF agent.
Right.
I'm watching this going, why flush a toilet when you can just flush your own career?
Yeah, this pretty much ruins him.
Yes.
Well,
Yes, it does.
He's already been on the way out of town for the last couple of episodes. Why is he still around?
Exactly. Like, Cohn won't mess with you anymore, and here he is again.
He won't go away.
And now he's European.
Yeah, he sure is. Right there in the baby's room.
So yeah, that whole scene that just, it's a WTF moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to leave it there. What do you got next?
Well, do me a favor on this one. I'm going to pour some more Eagle Rare. Why don't you take this next one as well?
All right. So
I'm going to tee it up, though, but why don't you fill it in? Running with Scissors.
oh,
You know what I'm
good
talking about?
choice. So it's a perfect continuation of what we were just talking about, right? So Gemma comes home, finds the nursery destroyed. I believe she's in heels, open-toed heels, and suddenly discovers that she's standing in a urine-soaked carpeted floor.
Yeah, you kind of hear that squishiness, which was great.
Yes, great Foley. Just perfect. And what I love is she calls Jax. Jax comes over and sees it. He immediately knows it's Cone.
This guy's dead.
At least.
It's a great response on a number of different levels. And then Jax calls Hale, right? Deputy Chief Hale, to say Cone actually hasn't left town. He's here.
He's at the barber.
Yep. And Hale's the one that lets that slip. He's like, I know he's at Floyd's, which huge mistake on Hale's part. Just come on, Hale. So Jax is now immediately in the mode of, I'm going to get to Floyd's before you get to Floyd's. And he does. And Ken, you had to have been happy. He beats the living shit out of Cone. Throws him through a plate glass window.
Yeah.
Floyd's pro Sam Crow. He's a buddy. And I'm sure Jax compensated Floyd, but he threw him through the window.
Yeah.
And then jumped on top of him and beat the shit out of him.
Oh yeah. Was he getting a shave or a haircut? I can't recall.
I think it was a shave. I think he had shaving cream on.
Okay. Well, that's a big thing people do. I've never had that done in my life.
Yeah, I've not either. The hot towel scares me.
I don't get it.
But Cone was a little prepared because apparently right before Jax grabbed him and threw him through the plate glass window, he had the wherewithal to pick up a pair of scissors and decided it would be appropriate to jam those into Jax's leg.
Yes, I recall. So Jax takes one to the leg.
Yes, he takes one to the leg and takes a moment to, yell in agony and pain, and then returns to beating the shit out of Agent Cone.
Yeah. That was a really good episode. I really enjoyed seeing the pain that Jax inflicted on him there.
I knew you would.
He annoys
I knew
the
you
hell
would.
out of me. Annoys the hell out of me.
And I also love how it then cuts to Agent Cone, I think, at the police station with Hale and Stahl. He's all bloody and bruised. And Stahl could just give a shit. She could care less. And also throw salt in the wound by breaking the news that he's being booted out of the ATF.
You're in breach of about a half a dozen federal statutes. You've been stripped of your creds, and OPR is going to meet you at O'Hare. I hope that the stock was a good rush, because it just killed your career.
Great scene. And again, good to finally see Agent Cone, for all of his creepiness, finally to get what's deserved.
Yeah.
A good ass whipping.
A little pain.
And Jax did warn him. I mean, he did give him fair warning. A knife in the radiator and a nice face-to-face threat that was not heated.
Right. Wasn't heated, but he was letting him know what was coming next. It won't be radiator fluid or something to that effect.
That's right. That's right. All right. So do you want to take the next one?
No, why don't you go ahead? I'm just enjoying the Eagle Rare. I'm going to top this off, have a little bit more.
Okay. So the next one I want to go to is the aftermath of that, right? What I call barbers and alibis.
Okay.
So you have Jax now detained and questioned for what happened at the barbershop, and Stahl is now going after him the way she went after Clay, right? And what I liked about it is Stahl, Jax is young, right? He's an attractive guy. Stahl starts with the smiling and the flirting and the let me butter you up and see if you'll give me what I want.
Why does Cohn have a hard on for you?
You know why.
You're right, I do.
Her acting during this scene is fantastic. Like you actually think she's got like this puppy love for Jax. Mm-hmm. And it's all an act to try to
cynical.
get Jax right to open up.
Mm-hmm.
And this is again where you see Jax in what I call that chess move mentality of he sees 4 moves ahead. And at some point Stahl says, "You mean to tell me that these things happened?" And Jax's response was like,
That's what Floyd saw. I guess that's what happened.
That's fantastic.
He's been there before.
"Yep. All right, Ken, I've taken the last 2. It's your turn. What do you got next?"
Well, the next one that jumps out to me is the subplot of the fight, the rigged fight.
Okay, great. Taking a
right.
dive.
Taking a dive. I don't know that Half-Sack knows he's taking a dive yet, but the topic is that they need money. They need to raise money. The club needs to raise money to pay back the Irish.
To pay
for
the
guns.
Irish.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're running, several $1,000s short. I can't recall exactly how much at this point, but
I think they need $200,000.
they need 200 in total. I don't know how far they're short, but in any
Good
rate,
point.
at the club, Lowell is fighting with Half-Sack and they're having a good time. And then it comes to Clay that, hey, how much is this? How much would a fight like this, how much would it be worth? They decide to have Half-Sack abstinate from sex, weed, alcohol.
Right. It gets serious.
Get serious during his training. And back up here, the fight itself.
Yes, let's go to the fight.
The fight itself, he's kicking some ass. He's doing pretty well.
He could win the thing.
He could win the whole thing.
He's
but
a scrawny guy, but he's got some skills.
He's doing well. Clay comes in to watch the fight, and Cherry's sitting right next to him, and Tig informs, I guess it's the 10th round or the last round of the fight, and informs Half-Sack that he needs to not win this because that's where the bet is. Now, did I miss that? Like, he wasn't in on that. He didn't know that, right? Until it happened.
No, they did not bring him in until literally he's in the fight and he knows he can win, and that's when they tell him.
Right. So he's going out there bummed, but he's doing what it takes for the club. And Cherry's there talking to Clay out in the audience, and as he's taking an ass whooping, he sees what's going on, and the discussion that's being had is Clay giving Cherry the endorsement, like if Half-Sack will have you, if he were to become a part of the club, full-fledged member of the club, that he would support her being his old lady.
If the Half-Sack patches in, which is a big if. It's all right with me if you stick around.
But that fires Half-Sack.
Right, Half-Sack sees it from the ring, does not know what was said.
He just thinks
but just sees Cherry kissing on Clay and loses his
mind.
Ever fucking mind.
So it explodes. He ends up winning, and the club loses a ton of money.
It's not good, Ken.
Nope.
I would not want to be a prospect in that situation.
No.
So I don't want to steal your thunder. I'm just going to tee you up. My favorite part of this storyline is in the short, brief moments after the fight in the parking lot as they're about to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And our good friend Tig.
Tig always has the great one-liners. But he said something to
take
the
us
effect.
home.
He told us something to the effect of, "You owe us 35,000," because that's what they were set back, right?
Right. Because I believe the way the scene is initially set up after the fight is Half Sack is apologizing to Clay, right? Because his emotions got the best of him. He screwed up the plan, and the club lost the money. He is a prospect. He wants to get that top rocker. He wants to be a full patch member, so he's apologizing.
Right. And I remember one of the lines that he first said, Tig first said to Half Sack and Cherry is,
Come on, get out of here before I rape both of you.
Jake.
Hey. Well, come on, it's an expression. Term of endearment.
classic Tig one-liner. I love Tig's acting. I love his character.
Who says that? Who says
He's demented. He's demented.
Get out of here. Hurry up and get out of here before I rape both of you.
He's twisted.
Kim Coates.
He's a great
You're a
actor.
brilliant actor. I just love your character. It's a great scene. It's a great scene. All right. That's going to do it for part 2. Remember to like and subscribe. Please check out our channel for more shows. And be sure to join us for part 3, where we will continue against better judgment, enjoying more Eagle Rare 10-year bourbon. And we'll wrap up our discussion of Sons of Anarchy, Season 1, Episode 7, titled Old Bones. Stay with us.